honestly, I wouldn't mind at this point if Caitlyn just started her villain arc. She needs to start putting her foot down because this, like, some of this stuff is getting a little wild. She comes into the WNBA, her biggest life dream to play professional basketball. She comes to the WNBA. She gets a special whistle the opposite way because she's getting fouled and flagrant fouled, and just the defense that they're playing on her is actually insane. Yet despite all that, has an incredible rookie season. And then on top of that, people are using her name for their hidden agendas on both sides. People are just using Caitlyn's name. And then if she says something, it's not enough. If she doesn't say anything, she never wants to speak out about anything. She cannot win.
At last, Caitlin Clark has reached her breaking point. She isn't holding back anymore, really. The WNBA may have believed that they could simply use her name to increase their fame and ratings, but now their biggest star is formally drawing a line. The basketball community has been rocked by Caitlyn's recent remarks regarding Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. What do you think, then? Was this something that had to happen, or had she gone too far? For weeks, the players and WNBA leadership have been at odds, and now it has completely burst. Napheesa Collier's leaving interview served as the catalyst for everything. There was complete anarchy for 6 minutes. It totally deflected attention from the WNBA finals. Everyone was talking about Collier rather than the Mercury or the Aces. Cathy was called out by her. Engelbert essentially accused her of fabricating information regarding Caitlin Clark. Let's take a quick look back now. According to Collier, Engelbert reportedly told Caitlyn that she should be thankful for the WNBA as she wouldn't have all of those endorsement agreements if it weren't for it. Everything was completely blown up by that one sentence. Fans lost their minds. As soon as other players began making posts online, the league took urgent action to stop the harm. Before the first game of the finals, Engelbert then attempted to make things more amicable. She organized a large news conference, but to be honest, it didn't do much.
You've continued to express that you're disheartened by the characterization of your conversation with Napheesa Collier. Just again, seeking clarity. Did you in fact say that Caitlin Clark should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court? Because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything? And do you actually feel that way, that without this platform, players like Caitlin Clark wouldn't be making what they do off the court?
Yeah, obviously I did not make those comments. Caitlin has been a transformational player in this league. She's been a great representative of the game. She's brought in tens of millions of new fans to the game. Proud of what she's put on the court. Unfortunately, the injuries held her back from a full season this year. But again, I'm not going to get into every counterpoint. It's not productive here. We're here to celebrate the WNBA finals. I think what Indiana just did was amazing with all the injuries they had and the everything they faced this year, bringing that to a Game 5 in overtime. But yeah, as I said, there's a lot of inaccuracies reported out there, and I certainly did not say that.
The commissioner vehemently denied making that remark on Caitlin Clark. Furthermore, she essentially implied that Collier's account of their private conversation was rife with errors. In short, Engelbert essentially labeled Collier a liar, and it was all broadcast on national television. And that's precisely when things started to get out of hand.
Here's the thing, you see.
Napheesa Collier is more than simply a random player whining on the internet. In fact, she is a vice president of the WNBA. This indicates that she participates directly in all of the major negotiations for collective bargaining agreements that will determine each player's future pay, schedule, and perks.
And at the end of the day, she's worried about her. In all of her statements, it's all like, well, I got us here and I should. And Cathy, no one cares. Literally, no one cares. Like how you're sitting right there, that's how we feel every time she speaks. Every time she speaks, us as players, that's how we feel.
Therefore, Cathy Engelbert wasn't merely disparaging one player when she publicly rejected what Collier said. She insulted a union leader outright. At that point, my friends, Caitlin Clark genuinely felt she had had enough. Caitlin has been quite cautious thus far. She typically stays out of the spotlight entirely. She simply keeps her head down, concentrates on her work, avoids politics, and lets the drama play out all around her. This time, however, she said something that made everyone froze when reporters questioned her about Collier's remarks. "I think Fee made a lot of valid points," she remarked simply.
Boom.
Boom.
Well, I mean, first of all, I have a lot of
I have great respect for Fee, and I think she made a lot of very valid points. And, I think what people need to understand, we need great leadership in this time across all levels. This is straight up the most important moment in this league's history. This league's been around for 25 plus years, and this is a moment we have to capitalize on. So that's honestly what I would say. I think Fee said it all with what she said, and I think the points she made were very valid.
The entire league fell silent at that single sentence, nor was it merely a haphazard remark.
It was a
enormous signal. The WNBA spokesperson, Caitlin Clark, was formally picking sides. Can you really blame her, to be honest? This is the same league that has been promoting every possible sponsor deal, increasing TV ratings, and selling a ton of tickets using her name. However, they also allowed her to be completely tossed around on the court as if it were a wrestling match. Consider those first few games of her rookie year. Caitlin was receiving more fouls than any other player in the league. The referees simply continued to shove, hack, and elbow her, disregarding it. It was referred to as physical play. However, if Steph Curry or LeBron James took those identical hits, we would be witnessing. Every 5 minutes, there are free throws. Therefore, the commissioner merely uses Caitlin's name to defend the league's reputation when she finally has an opportunity to demonstrate her concern for player safety. Indeed, it is easy to understand why Clark might grow impatient. What occurred next is insane. Cathy Engelbert said she had contacted Keir to arrange a private meeting to clear the air immediately following her press statement. However, before that could even occur, Keir presided over the meeting. She steadfastly refused to speak with her. The story was reported by ESPN and even wilder. In reality, Cathy Engelbert learned about it via the press rather than Keir. Things have gotten so horrible. Twitter alerts are how the league's own commissioner learns about postponed meetings. This is the point at which Caitlin Clark resurfaces. A number of players publicly supported Key after he was canned, even Caitlin's own colleagues, such as Lexi Hall. They claimed that the leadership was completely out of touch and that she wasn't mistaken. Caitlin didn't post a lengthy comment, but her behavior was very clear. She ceased reposting content from the WNBA. She made no mention of the championship game. She preferred a number of fan tweets that criticized the league's leadership instead. Fans took notice and began referring to it as Caitlin Clark's silent protest. And to be honest, it feels just like that. This disagreement isn't your typical one. The WNBA's biggest star ever is delivering a severe warning to the league that first made her famous. You cannot continue to take advantage of me and treat everyone around me with disrespect. Before anyone accuses her of exaggerating, let's consider the wider situation. The WNBA is currently negotiating one of its most important collective bargaining agreements. Historical negotiation. There is a serious chance of a lockout in 2026, and player incomes are at stake. Possession. Organizations are attempting to find a way to pay their top players more while still keeping the books balanced. Here's the issue, though. Napheesa Collier and Breanna Stewart, two of the athletes seated at the negotiation table, are also co-founders of Unrivaled, an alternative off-season league. The major conflict of interest arises at that point. Unrivaled would benefit greatly if the WNBA is unable to come to an agreement and the league is locked out in 2026. Gamers would be forced to play there in order to earn money. Owners and executives are naturally suspicious. They believe that Stewart, and if the WNBA closes, Keir might gain an undisclosed advantage. Additionally, when the commissioner becomes embroiled in a verbal altercation with one of them, it only gives the impression that everything is worse. That's the true source of Caitlin Clark's annoyance. She is observing both the players and the commissioner, simply using her name as a pawn in their game. She is attempting to prepare for the upcoming season by training and recuperating from her injuries. However, she appears in every headline in some way. Despite not asking to get involved in this altercation, she is now directly at the center of it. Consider it. In some way, every plot point in this league returns to Caitlin Clark TV ratings, sponsorships, ticket costs, and even the CBA talks. Nevertheless, she's being informed. She ought to be appreciative of what the league provides for her. That's absurd. Caitlin Clark is far more important to the WNBA than she is to them. Viewership records are being broken by her games. Sales of her jerseys are at an all-time high. More media attention was paid to her injury season than to the finals themselves. Even now, the league is still unsure of how to adequately assist her off the court and safeguard her on it. Fans are undoubtedly catching on. You're able to feel that both casual and devoted followers are becoming increasingly frustrated online. People are becoming aware that the WNBA has one of the largest promotional gifts in the history of sports. And for some reason, they never stop coming up with new ways to ruin it. This is where the irony lies. Caitlin Clark is not requesting any preferential treatment at all. All she wants is justice. She wants to be able to play the game without having to deal with politics, media upheaval, and ongoing controversy. However, each time she attempts to advance, the league simply pushes her back into the limelight. She is controversial, not because of her extraordinary talent. And now, instead of the silent patience she formerly possessed, it is no longer there. This isn't the cheerful novice from this veteran has come to the conclusion that remaining silent is no longer helpful. By lending even a little support to Keir, Caitlin Clark just told the WNBA, "You're not untouchable." And believe me when I say that the consequences are only getting started. Players are beginning to split up into groups. Fans are arguing a lot on the internet. Even past celebrities are expressing their opinions, stating, "This may be the most humiliating period in WNBA history." Cathy Engelbert, meanwhile, continues to act as though nothing is wrong.
All right.
She is conducting pre-planned press briefings regarding stakeholder engagement and player alignment. In contrast, the league she oversees is literally in danger of dissolving. This explains why, only a few months ago, many were discussing how they were the WNBA's best expansion clubs. New investors and record grades. They are already questioning whether the 2026 season will even happen. It's not the players' fault, let's face it. Leadership is solely responsible for that. You cannot continue to brush off valid player concerns and then expect them to be happy on media day. You are unable to. Feeling estranged from her own league, the most well-known female basketball player still expects fans to purchase. There was a sizable family marketing pit there. The denial of Cathy Engelbert. That could have been the tipping point. Because the fact that no one believes her at all says something, even if she didn't say what Keir says. Her credibility has simply vanished. The saddest part is that it has nothing to do with who is correct. It concerns the appalling way in which this entire matter was handled. The WNBA allowed in the middle of its finals, a private argument turns into a public soap opera. Additionally, any headline regarding the goal of women's basketball is not to determine who wins. Who's lying is the issue. Caitlin Clark's tactful yet forceful approach is powerful because of this. She isn't yelling. She doesn't post lengthy paragraphs on Twitter. She is simply allowing the stillness to do the talking. And trust me when I say that quiet speaks louder than any words Engelbert could ever utter from a podium. The fans sense it. The sponsors sense it. Nobody knows how to spin this, so even ESPN anchors are skirting it. Mess no more. In fact, we are witnessing a real-time power change. The athletes are becoming aware that they don't require approval from the commissioner to exert influence. And Caitlin Clark has just become the face of that change, whether she likes it or not. Thus, the WNBA is in full panic mode now that Caitlin Clark has openly sided with Napheesa Collier. And they really ought to be honest. You're in serious trouble when your top star, who is essentially the face of your league, begins to express doubt about the leadership. First, let's discuss the fan response, which has been really vociferous. Fans on social Cathy Engelbert is now the public's worst enemy, thanks to the media. Some threads include thousands of comments that are entirely about fire.
Cathy.
Memes of her are being shared online, along with a caption, "This is a fine dog sitting in a room on fire." It's utterly savage for once. There is, in fact, a point of agreement between supporters of Keir and supporters of Clark. The leadership of the league appears to be totally uninformed. Things have gotten so horrible. Even those who frequently quarrel about trivial matters on Reddit or X agree that this is embarrassing. To be fair, not everyone is taking without question. Some are saying, hey, perhaps Caitlyn shouldn't have commented, or perhaps Keir should have kept this private. At all. The problem is, though, that's not really feasible anymore. Being the WNBA spokesperson means that silence is taken seriously. Like a declaration anyhow. Caitlyn would be accused of disregarding important concerns if she remained silent. They claim that if she says too much, she is inciting drama. She is therefore stuck in this untenable situation regardless of what she does. Let's face it, the league placed her there. She became the public face of everything. She was forced into every interview, promotion, and advertisement. She served as the focal point of this WNBA narrative. They also want to appear startled now that the plots are going awry. Make a plea. As if they didn't understand that giving one player control over the entire brand also gives her the ability to influence how the public views the league. And Caitlin Clark is making good use of her authority in a discreet manner. She has obviously given up on playing N. She is clearly fed up with having her name brought up in rival league politics, boardroom disputes, and phony empowerment speeches. All she wants is fairness and transparency, which is precisely what the fans desire. Let's now discuss how this might truly impact the WNBA's future. Because this is more than a minor PR sham. There are actual business repercussions to this. The next collective bargaining agreement for the WNBA is presently being negotiated. The CBA, which determines player compensation, the duration of the season, the operation of travel, etc. If these discussions break down, which is now looking extremely, the league might experience a lockout. That would imply no games, no season, and no player compensation. That would be a complete catastrophe. The worst aspect is that it would take place during the WNBA's most significant expansion phase. At last, networks, sponsors, and investors are taking an interest. The number of attendees has increased. TV viewership is at all-time highs. And now we have this pandemonium just when things are beginning to make sense. People believed that the WNBA would enter a new era due to the Caitlin Clark impact, but given the current state of affairs, the league may really entirely misjudge that. Additionally, press conferences by Cathy Engelbert aren't doing anything. She consistently provides the same cliched responses. We're listening. Our players are important to us. Our goal is to be together. The typical corporate crap, you know. The players are tweeting fire emojis and memes about silence in the meanwhile. Leadership and reality are completely at odds with one another. Some instructors have even begun to make subtle remarks about it. The head coach of the Indiana Fever, Stephanie White, has previously supported Caitlin and referred to her as a pawn in other people's games. That remark held up well over time since it properly captures the essence of the current circumstance. Feels. Caitlin Clark is being dragged around in a large game without having any input. The amusing aspect, or perhaps what's frightening is that the league still doesn't seem to realize how serious this is. They believe that after the finals are done, this will simply go away. It won't, spoiler alert. The entire power structure of the WNBA has been altered by Caitlin Clark. She is more than simply a player now. She is a one-woman media factory, an economy, and a brand. And the entire system trembles when a player of that caliber loses faith in leadership. Consider the timing. Collier and Engelbert call off their rendezvous. Gamers begin sharing posts promoting unity. Caitlin supports Collie. The commissioner then makes an effort to appear as though nothing is wrong. Reporters are openly questioning whether a TW will even occur. That isn't typical. There is a full-fledged uprising taking on within the WNBA, and the repercussions are already apparent. The sponsors are anxious. Networks are posing inquiries. There are even rumors circulating among NBA executives that Adam Silver may need to take over and clean house, considering that the WNBA is still officially a part of the NBA. And if things continue to go wrong, Silver might have to replace Cathy Engelbert and make the decision that everyone is avoiding. That would be the most significant upheaval the league has ever witnessed. And to be honest, it might be because of weather. Whether or not you agree with Keir, the fact that so many players feel ignored says it everything. Thus, what are your thoughts? Has this completely gotten out of hand? Or is Caitlin Clark standing up for what's right? Please hit the like, subscribe, and comment buttons.